Today we have to listen Karuna Bhavana, meditation on compassion. Makaruniko nato hitaya sabapaninam puritwa parami sabba pato sambodhi muttamam. Buddha, who is possessed of great compassion, fulfilled all the perfections for the benefits of all beings, and reached the highest state as the fully enlightened one. Feeling of great compassion occurs in the minds of omniscient Buddhas when they saw numerous kinds of suffering prevailing among all beings. Most living beings do not see other beings' miserable condition. They might see only living beings who are in great distress and suffering. When fairly happy person see other people who are in the same boat, they think of them or they imagine them as being happy as they are. Relating to people who are found to be more happy than they are, they might look upon them as living in a state of extreme happiness without any misery and consider them as not deserving of pity. This shows the lack of compassionate feeling, the scarcity of compassionate feeling, for not actually knowing the state of misery. However, the Buddhas clearly perceive the various kinds of circumstances under which beings are suffering. Seeing the sentient beings in such miserable condition, great compassion, Karuna, has entered the hearts of the Buddhas. Upanayati logo aduwa Upanayati logo aduwa dipasandanam bodhanam bhagavantanam satte suma Karuna aukamati. That means all beings are being conveyed to inevitable aging, sickness and death. It is impermanent. Seen as such, Buddha endowed with this realization, towards all beings, great compassion with sympathy arises in their hearts. In other words, a great compassion for beings arises in the Holy Lord Buddha. In every existence, all living beings are carried away to reach aging. From the time of their birth, and from aging to sickness, and then from sickness to death. Buddha, perceiving with his insight knowledge the nature of impermanence, has great pity on all beings. Of course, in so far as beings are concerned, if they reflect, they will have some knowledge of the impermanent nature of their own aggregates. However, they may still think that they will have to live long, apparently assuming that no deterioration is taking place in their youthful appearance and in their health. While imagining as such, unexpectedly, sickness will prevail on them under unfavorable circumstances. Some people die at an early age while still young. If death does not occur early, they gradually grow older and older day by day, month by month, and year by year. Yet, accidentally, at first sight, they do not think of themselves as getting old with the passage of time. Only when their hair turns gray and their teeth decay, etc., they would come to realize that they have become old and decrepit. Who are those carrying us away to inevitable aging, sickness, and death? Who are those? They are Namarupa aggregates in our own material body. They are Namarupa khandas, Namarupa aggregates in our own material body who are conveying us from the time of conception. New Rupa and Nama, new mind and matter are incessantly arising and dissolving, and then appearing afresh to be again dissolved, undergoing a gradual process of continual change. A person slowly and perhaps unnoticeably grows older in every split second, and a fraction of a minute, etc., until when becoming advanced in age, say about 50 or 60, the bodily appearance becomes obviously changed, showing signs of deterioration, signs of decay, with the appearance of gray hairs, wrinkles, etc. Withering with age. We can easily be afflicted with a disease at one time or other, and after serious derangement of our health, we reach our deathbed and ultimately pass away. So it becomes evident that hour by hour, as time goes on, we are carried closer to aging, sickness, and death. Mahasi Sayadaw gave an example. A group of cattle slaughterers carry away an ox to be killed. Every step taken by that ox brought him nearer to the threshold of death. It seemed that the ox knew of the coming disaster and imminent death, and as such, it was struggling to escape from the hands of the butcher. However, the cattle slaughterers were pulling its heart and dragging the poor animal with force. The ox had no way out but to submit to this ill treatment against his own will. It was indeed a pitiable sight, as the most venerable Mahasi Sayadaw had personally seen this heart-breaking spectacle. He felt pain in his heart with pity, and since then, Sayadaw had abstained from taking beef. This incident had happened when Mahasi Sayadaw was a Samanera, a novice, in his monkhood before he received his higher ordination as a senior bhikkhu. Just like that ox, which was carried away by the slaughterers to the slaughterhouse, beings are carried away by their rupas and namas by the matter without any break, even for a second, to make us suffer from aging, sickness, and death. Having seen all beings drifting towards disaster, great pity had arisen in Buddha. What the Buddha had perceived was that beings are fast approaching aging, sickness, and death at every moment of an arising. though which occurs incessantly with great acceleration, much faster than a split second or a flash of lightning. This perception brought forth a feeling of boundless compassion in the Lord Buddha. Now, Vipassana yogis, you all are practicing Vipassana meditation. So Vipassana practitioners who are contemplating Vipassana can fully appreciate that they are gradually approaching aging, sickness, and death at every moment. If they perceived the mind that constantly changes, those practitioners who are contemplating and noting continuously and precisely, when they reach in the stage of Binganyana, the knowledge of dissolution, they will find it very obvious that the object of sensation that is noted and the knowing mind dissolve part by part continuously. It is something like each bead threaded with others on the string, falling down one after another in great speed. Every time dissolution takes place, it carries us nearer to aging, sickness, and death. Yogis who have achieved Vinganyana, knowledge of dissolution, may guess with their insight knowledge that it is so happening. Ordinary person can imagine this state of phenomena within a second or a minute or an hour or a day or a month or a year. Roughly speaking, we may clearly perceive ourselves as coming a bit closer to aging, sickness, and death if we could reflect upon our own self year to year. Signs of withering in age, followed by sickness and death, can be visualized. Generally, most people die when they reach the age of 70 or 80 plus. Both the rich and poor, as well as dictators, powerful rulers, and heroes, come to a road end in the path of life, that is death. Between the age of 70 or 80 or later beyond that age. Rupa and Nama, mind and body in our own body, are carrying us away to aging, sickness, and death. So that is the motto composed by Mahasi Sayadaw. Beings are impermanent, they are driven to aging, sickness, and death. If this motto is reflected upon, the nature of impermanence becomes obvious. Marananusati, mindfulness, contemplation on the nature of death, we also become developed. In every existence, all beings have to go through the process of inevitable aging, sickness, and death. This is the dangerous path we are treading along. How pitiable we are. We can very well imagine this awful state. It is not surprising that great compassion had arisen in Buddha towards beings. So we have to develop Karuna, compassion, as Buddha himself had done. All beings are subjected to aging, sickness, and death, to which they are being conveyed. That is really impermanent. May all beings be liberated from this misery. May all beings be liberated from this misery. We need to develop Karuna Bhavana. The manner of developing compassion in this way is of a very high standard. It is similar to the great compassion bestowed upon mankind by the Lord Buddha. Among people in general, a great many of them are in misery for having suffered loss in their business venture, or for loss of their property, or for being separated from their beloved ones. Many people are suffering. Compassion can be developed towards such people in misery. So develop again and again. May all beings who are suffering misery in one way or the other be liberated from such misery. And then another type of Karuna Bhavana, Attano Logo Anabhisaroti Pasantana Bodhana Bhagavantana Sattesu Magaruna Aukamati. All beings have no one to look after them and nothing to depend upon. Having perceived as such, towards all beings, in holy Buddhas, great compassion had occurred. It means that all living beings have no one to protect or look after them and no one to rely upon. Koravyakin, not being able to grasp the meaning of this statement, has asked Venerable Ratthapala, Bande Ratabala, we have many armed forces to defend and protect us. These strong armies, strong forces are to be relied upon. And then what is the intention conveyed in the statement? Have no one to protect and rely upon. King Kauravya asks Venerable Ratapala. Venerable Ratapala queried, O Your Majesty Kauravya, don't you ever have any affliction? If that afflicted disease ill-treats you cruelly, how would you feel? To this query, King Kauravya replied, when this disease becomes very serious and it treats me, I will suffer gravely to the point of near death. There had been occasions when my relatives in close proximity of my sick bed wept bitterly, even shedding tears, thinking that I was about to die. Having heard this reply for the purpose of verification, another question put was, O King Kauravya, when this disease has caused you terrible pain and suffering, could you share it with your relatives and friends? Will you be able to share the suffering if you ask them to give you relief? To this, King Kauravya gave this reply, one day it is impossible to share it. Neither can they take a share in it. I alone have to suffer. I alone have to suffer severely and endure the pain with all the ill power at my command. Venerable Ratabala then explained, saying, exactly, Your Majesty. Buddha has therefore preached that just as there is no one who can give protection and on whom reliance can be made, in times of extreme distress such as this, all living beings also have no one to protect them and in whom refuge can be sought. Despite the presence of our parents and relatives who are rendering utmost assistance and giving full protection, we cannot possibly, they cannot possibly prevent their dear ones from getting old, sick, and suffering death. No one is capable of looking after another to keep us always young and vigorous. When the time comes, we are sure to get old. the nature of aging cannot be shared. In case it can be shared by distributing part and parcel of it to others, we would have become always youthful. If aging can be done this way, if it can be done that way, how far it would be. Though preventive measure in regard to health can be taken by appropriate drugs and medicine, total prevention against diseases is impossible. If really serious or malignant disease is afflicted, no perfect cure can be done. Suffering from disease can neither be shared in piecemeal. If it is within the bounds of possibility to share the suffering, how nice it would be. No one can possibly prevent death, aging, sickness, and death cannot be prevented by anyone from occurring. No one can also prevent a person from descending to the four netherworlds to which he is destined after his demise. Realizing this fate of all living beings, Buddha had bestowed this immense compassion on them. So we have to develop compassion in the light of what has just been stated. Without a protector and without anything to rely upon, how feeble we are. In the entire universe, there's no one will be found who can save a person to get liberated from the suffering of aging, sickness, and death, or to escape from descending to the netherworlds, or to get emancipated from the misery of samsara. According to the doctrine of the manner in which Buddha saves all mankind is by way of preaching, laying down the method of practice to get liberated from the walls of suffering and miseries. It is something like prescribing and administering medicine by a physician to a patient under treatment. Just as the sick who complies with the advice and instruction given by the physician has recovered from sickness, A person who obeys and complies with the instruction of the Buddha and practice according to his preaching will be liberated from the miseries of woeful states and samsara. The meaning of this statement as preached by the Buddha is mentioned in this way. Tumbehi kecha matapan ekhataro tathagata patipanna pamokhandi jayino mara bandana. Buddha said, you, my disciple, must carry out by yourself relating to the practice of sila, samadhi, and panya, morality, concentration, and wisdom, which need to be practiced with diligence and right effort. We, the Buddhas, can only preach the right method of practice to be exercised. By contemplating both samatha and vipassana meditation, he or she who practice according to the teaching of the Buddha from the bonds will be liberated from the bonds of mental defilements, from the bonds of Mara. This means that those who work out their own salvation with right effort and diligence, as taught by the Buddha, will be free from the fetters of mental defilements. The misery of samsara. If no practice is exercised according to his teaching, there will be no escape. The right method can only be known and heard only when Buddhas appear in this universe. Outside the realms of Buddha teaching, there can be no emancipation from miseries, since no right method is known and understood to be practiced. In the absence of the right method of exercise, and in as much as there is no one on whom reliance can be made, beings are whirling rounds and rounds in samsara, floating and drifting in the whirlpool of endless existences. So they are suffering in misery. This state of pitiable condition, being seen and observed by the Lord Buddha, compassion for all beings had awakened in him. Just as Buddha has his compassion, we dwell our mind on all beings who have no one to rely upon as a protector. And then we have to develop compassion. So to develop compassion, can you follow me, Rudy? May all beings who are suffering misery in the samsara existences without having anyone to protect them from becoming aging, sickness, and meeting death, be liberated from misery. So, so that do sadhu sadhu. So that is the way to develop Karuna Bhavana, to be free from all suffering. Buddha teaching, Satipatthana method, we need to practice. So Sangha, we recite the Satipatthana Odisha Pali. Just listen. Ekayano ayam bhikkhave mego saddhana visuddhiyam sogabri devana sammadhikamaya dukkha domanasana attingamaya nyaya sadhikamaya nibbana sasicikiriyaya yadidan cattaro satipatthana kadame cattaro ida bhikkhave bhikkhu kaya kayanubasi viharati adapi sambhajano satimam vineya loke bija domanasam Venasu venanubasi viharati Adapi sambhajano satima Vineya loke veja domanasam Jete jetanubasi viharati Adapi sambhajano satima Vineya loke veja domanasam Dhamme Dhammanubasi viharati Adapi sambhajano satima Vineya loke veja domanasam Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu. So there is Satipatthana, Mahasatipatthana, Odisha Pali. Now we have to practice Vipassana meditation according to this Satipatthana method. Take the postures that is most comfortable for you, preferably the cross-legged position. Keep your back straight. Keeping it straight means not leaning forward or backwards. Your back should feel comfortably straight, so do not make it rigid or tense. Just be relaxed. Breathe in, breathe out steadily. See, it's not necessary. Close your eyes. Breathe in, breathe out steadily. Keep your mind on the abdomen. When you breathe in, the abdomen rise, and note the rising of the abdomen from the beginning to the end. Pay close attention so that you are fully aware of the movement. When you breathe out, the abdomen falls, and note the falling of the abdomen from the beginning to the end. You may mentally note rising when the abdomen is rising and falling when it is falling. But if making mental notes interfere with your practice, you don't have to make them. Just be mindful of the rising and falling movements of the abdomen. If you pay attention, you may feel either tension or pressure or extension in the abdomen. You may concentrate on it. Here, the emphasis is to be mindful of the movement rather than the abdomen's shape or form. Don't go to the past, don't go to the future. If your mind can remain on rising and falling of the abdomen, the presently arising object, it would be very good. Your mind has a tendency to wander quite often. Naturally, the mind is jumping around all the time. When you are keeping your mind on the abdomen, be mindful when it wanders. Do not blame yourself or feel guilty. Just be mindful of its going out, or mentally notice it's going out, or wandering. When the wandering mind disappears, go back to rising and falling of the abdomen. So whatever thoughts or reflection occurs should be noted. If you imagine, notice imagining. If you think, thinking. If you plan, planning. If you perceive, perceiving. If you reflect, reflecting. If you dishearten, dishearten. Noting all these acts of consciousness is called Chaitanyupasana. Because we fail to note the acts of consciousness, the acts of every consciousness, we tend to identify them with the person or individual. We tend to think that it is I who is imagining, thinking, planning, knowing, or perceiving. We think that there is a person who from childhood onwards has been living and thinking. Actually, no such person exists. There are instead only these continuing and successive acts of consciousness. That is why we have to note these acts of consciousness and know them for what they are. That is why we have to note each and every act of consciousness as it arises. When so noted, it tends to disappear. Then we go back to noting the rising and falling of the abdomen. When sensation of stiffness and heat will arise in your body, these are to be noted carefully also. Similarly, with sensation of pain and tiredness, all of these sensations are the feeling of unsatisfactoriness, and noting them is Vedananupasana. If you fail to know these sensations, makes you think I'm stiff, I'm feeling hot, I'm in pain. The identification of these sensations with the ego is mistaken. There's, there is really no I involved, only a succession of one new unpleasant sensation after another. Hearing the sound, notice hearing. When seeing something, notice seeing. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, everything have to be noted. So try to observe the natural phenomena as they really are.